Okay, I'm on the edge of my chair because I'm engaged. I'm ready for this intense show match. I can't believe I'm doing this. This is the video that I thought I would never make. Yeah, Hitmonchan versus Hitmonlee. So here we go. Hope everyone's hype. Yeah. Today is a special day because it's time for the most competitive, intense, breathtaking showdown of all of them. These single-stage fighting types have been vying for supremacy for over a quarter century now, but today, this epic rivalry will be decided once and for all. Will Hitmonchan defeat Hitmonlee and complete Pokemon Yellow with a faster time, earning itself the title of Hitmonchad, or will it be Hitmonbad, defeated by Hitmonlee? Here's how these videos work. I play through the game with each Pokemon to determine which one can beat it with greater ease. To evaluate the Pokemon's performances, I use the following metrics: real-time, number of resets and blackouts, game time, and level. Here are the rules. They're the same as all my regular challenge rules, and I've left them in the description for you. Now, I'm excited to get into this epic match. It makes sense that this is one of the most competitive rivalries in all of Generation 1 because these two Pokemon are a part of Bruno's team. He's the strongest Elite Four member by far, and the Hitmons are the reason for that. Today, I'm going to start with my initial playthroughs. On my last Versus video, I read some comments that said people liked seeing me go through the process of learning with each Pokemon, so today I'm going to start with my initial playthroughs. I reverted back to my old approach. Let me know if you enjoy it this way. So now let's review the two competitors. Hitmonlee kicks hard with 120 base attack, and luckily it has 87 speed to ensure that it's going to be moving first against most opponents. For a playthrough of the game, there are very few Pokemon who are going to outspeed. Unfortunately, it lacks physical defense, but even more so it lacks special. 35 base special is just awful. In good news, it doesn't learn any special moves though, so it's always going to be utilizing its best offensive stat. Finally, its 50 base HP pairs with its defensive stats to make it a truly frail Pokemon. Hitmonlee hits hard and gets hit hard. It's truly a glass cannon. A massive advantage for the Kicking Fiend is its starting moveset: Double Kick and Meditate. Double Kick hits twice, obviously, and after the same type attack bonus, each hit will be effectively 40 power. Starting with a 90 power move with 100% accuracy is a dream. Meditate synergizes really well with this too because it raises Hitmonlee's attack stat by 1 stage. This also means it's going to give me access to the badge boost glitch once I've earned Surge's badge. When the game recalculates stats, it correctly recalculates the stat that it's supposed to be modifying, so that's why Meditate doesn't trigger the glitch for Brock's badge. In Generation 1, most of the fighting types got terrible fighting moves. Like, let's just check this out. Poliwrath gets Submission, Counter, and Seismic Toss. It doesn't learn any fighting moves by level up. Hitmonchan gets access to the same moves as Poliwrath. Machamp and Primeape get these moves with the addition of Low Kick, a base 50 power move with the chance to flinch. By the way, Submission is so bad that people use Low Kick in competitive instead of it. And then there's Hitmonlee. This thing stole every single cool fighting move. Double Kick, Rolling Kick, Jump Kick, High Jump Kick, Mega Kick. Yeah, that last one's definitely correct. I know sometimes it's hard to admit mistakes, but I definitely will if I make one. Now, Hitmonlee isn't all just advantages. It does have a disadvantage, and that's that in the early game, it has to face a lot of flying, bug, and poison types, which all resist its fighting type attacks. The flying types this early on are paired with normal typing, so they take neutral damage, but the Caterpie and Metapod in the forest don't take much damage at all. As a result, I choose to skip all the optional trainers and make my way directly to the one mandatory bug catcher in the area. In Yellow, he has a level 10 Caterpie. First turn I use Meditate, but my Double Kick still does very little damage on the second turn. I set up one more time and then I commit to attacking. I was a bit worried here because Hitmonlee took a lot of damage. It's just so squishy. In Pewter City, I decide to skip the Junior Trainer and face Brock right away. Hitmonlee has Double Kick after all. It hits Geodude for massive damage, but unfortunately after 2 turns, Brock's Rock hangs on with a Sliver. When it faints, Hitmonlee levels up to 8, gaining back some of its health, preparing it for Onix. But the Snake is faster at this level and it uses Bind and Tackle, taking me down to 2 hit points. Double Kick is doing decent damage, but it just isn't enough. Brock wins. So there's a clear and obvious solution here. If I face the Junior Trainer first, I can arrive at Brock at least 1 level higher, and that'll let me KO his rock types with ease. But this fight gets sketchy really fast. Diglett gets a big critical hit, taking Hitmonlee down into red hit points. I need Double Kick to do good damage to Sandshrew. It does half, the Shrew scratches, and Hitmonlee survives with 1 hit point. This fight was way too close. Now that I've leveled up, I can 2-hit Brock's Geodude, and that allows me to take less damage before the Onix comes out. This one still takes time, but it's much faster and I have more health, making the fight trivial. Hitmonlee clocks in with a time of 4 minutes and 12 seconds. This is my fastest Brock split of all time, even with one reset. Yeah, we should all just pause for a moment and think about Hitmonlee getting the fastest Brock split ever. Yeah, impressive. He slows most Pokemon down in these playthroughs. Let's be real. I don't know if there's any other Pokemon that I'm yeah, Brock, so easy. I guess water types. Every water type that gets a water move is so good against Brock. Also grass types, like Tangela, right? Brock should be really easy, right? Because Tangela is a grass type and it has amazing special. You'd think that Brock was really easy. Right? I hate that vine monster. It's time to examine our second competitor. Hitmonchan's stats are... Okay, I can't keep hyping this matchup anymore. Hitmonchan is truly Hitmon bad. Base 35 special is just awful. This is the same as Hitmonlee's, but the truly insulting thing is that Hitmonchan learns the elemental punches, which would be great if this was Generation 4, but in Generation 1, the type determines which stat the move uses. Making this thing even less competitive is its 105 attack, which is a good attack stat, but not nearly as good as Hitmonlee's 120. Hitmonchan is also slower, but this probably won't matter much since we're doing a playthrough. It might matter at Sabrina or Lance. Alakazam and Aerodactyl are just really fast. I guess that Hitmonchan has more defense, so that's nice. It's going to survive more physical hits. So here's the thing, Hitmonchan's move pool is awful. The punches are special moves, so yeah, they're pretty much trash today. Comet Punch, which it starts with, is a normal move with 85% accuracy. It doesn't get Meditate, instead it gets Agility. This is bad because it only has the potential to trigger the badge boost 3 times. Another reason it's not as good as Meditate. Honestly here, I'd probably just prefer Defense Curl or Growth instead. Oh well. Then there's the distinct lack of good fighting type moves. Submission is awful. 80% accuracy, 1/4 recoil damage, and it only has 80 base power. If it was 120 base power, it might make sense. Seismic Toss does damage based on your level, and it's fixed, so there's no bonus damage here. Finally, we have Counter, and it clearly seems like Game Freak wanted this to be Hitmonchan's move because it learns it through level up. Everything else learns it through TM. But this move is fundamentally broken in these games. It has lower priority, meaning you move second, and if the opponent deals damage to you, you pay it back double. But there's a catch. It only returns damage if the move you were hit with is a normal or fighting type move. If you were hit with, say, a water move, it just misses. You take damage for free. So yeah, this is really not an impressive moveset, and unfortunately Comet Punch is probably the worst part. Starting the game with a base 18 power normal type move and not learning anything else until level 33 is going to make Brock a wall. I had to figure out the fastest way to get by him, and since this is my first attempt, I took what I thought would be the best option. I faced the Lass in the forest and use up much of my Comet Punch PP taking her down. After that, I find a Metapod and spam out all of my agility PP. I want to be completely depleted so that I can struggle. The advantage of doing this is that I can face the bug catchers in the forest without having to return to Viridian City to heal between each one of them. Comet Punch is wildly inconsistent, so this would be the thing that would force me back to the city to heal. It can get 2 hits, or it can get none because it has terrible accuracy, or it can get a critical hit and do 5 hits and knock out 1 Pokemon in 1 turn. So it's just not something I want to bank on. The reason that I want to fight these trainers is that they give 1.5 times the experience that wild Pokemon would give. Unfortunately, the guy with 3 Pokemon turns out to be just too strong for Hitmonchan, and I get my first reset. Okay, so now that we've seen some of the disadvantages of this struggle strategy, let's go back to talking about some of the advantages. I can also train on wild Pokemon and use potions to heal, preventing the trips back to the Pokemon Center. I do this until I only have 1 potion left, and then I face the last bug catcher. It's an easy fight, and Hitmonchan levels up to level 11. So this level isn't going to be enough for Brock, but I am lucky that this isn't Pokemon Red or Pokemon Blue, because those games, Brock's Onix is level 14, not level 12. To level up more, I face the Junior Trainer right away, and that levels me up to 12. So is it possible that Hitmonchan could defeat Brock at level 12? It might be, because I have a multi-hit move. I'm going to be dealing more than 1 damage per turn. Well, let's find out. I use Comet Punch against Geodude, and it's taking 1 damage. However, the damage that I'm dealing each turn is wildly variable because it could be 2 damage, and it could be 5. However, by the time Onix is on the field, I realize that Hitmonchan just isn't up to the task at this level. At level 13, I come back and face Brock again, and this is still a big nope. What about level 14? Well, it's starting to get closer. Now I'm taking Onix into orange health, but just before I knock it out, I run out of PP. PP problems strike again. There's a clear solution here. I just head back to Viridian Forest, find a Metapod, and deplete all of Agility's PP. While I was depleting my PP in the forest, I reflected on the fact that Hitmonchan is a prize Pokemon. You defeat the entire dojo and this guy's like, hey, take one of our prized fighting type Pokemon as a reward for beating us. And as a kid, I was like, cool, I can't wait to see what Pokemon I get to choose from. And then it's Hitmonchan and Hitmonlee. One of them has cool boxing gloves and its head looks like a little hand, and the other one has no head. So I picked Hitmonchan, and then the dojo master took a giant sigh of relief at that moment. He's probably thinking to himself, good, the kid picked the useless one. Making matters worse was the fact that I had other Pokemon like Zapdos and Articuno who taught me that electric and ice moves were great. So Ice Punch is obviously going to hit like a truck. Wait. At level 14, I come back and face Geodude again. And it's terrible. Truly terrible. I used 10 PP of Comet Punch just knocking it out. So I lose. Again. So I'm going to head south of Pewter City to level up to 15 to be safe. By the way, if you didn't know, I already did a Hitmonchan video in Pokemon Red, and in that video I had over 200 resets against Agatha. This challenge almost stopped me from making these videos. If you want to see me suffer, go check it out. If you want to see someone take Red version on with Hitmonchan in a much more efficient way, check out Vanman's video. He's putting out really high quality content, and I love watching his stuff. I'll see you in his comments over there. So is level 15 enough to defeat Brock? Well, let's find out. It actually seems to be going really well, and I'm going to mention that I'm streaming on Twitch now. I've decided that my first playthroughs for all of these Versus videos are going to be streamed over there, and I'm also going to stream some of my testing after I do this playthrough. So I was streaming this playthrough, and here's my reaction to the end of this fight. Everyone guess what video I'm doing this run for. And then when you figure out the Pokemon that Hitmonchan is going up against, guess what time it got on Brock. And then look at the clock. So I thought that level 15 would be enough, but I guess I really do need to deplete Agility's PP before fighting Brock. I do that, and when I come back, I finally manage to defeat the rock-solid Pokemon trainer. Hitmonchan earns a time of 26 minutes and 28 seconds. That's not my worst Brock split. It's actually the 5th worst Brock split that I've got. Wigglytuff, Beedrill, Magnemite, and Tangela all got worse splits here. Now let's reflect on just how far ahead Hitmonlee really is. Here's the footage of Hitmonlee going out onto Route 3 and getting annoyed by how tanky Weedle is at 4 minutes and 45 seconds. This is where Hitmonchan was at that time. The question now really is just how far apart are these two going to be? I've had close matches before like Golem and Machamp, but I've never really had a match that was this one-sided after Brock. Something that's really important to me in these Versus videos is making sure that I'm doing my best with each Pokemon. And one thing I do on Route 3 to minimize the number of bug types that Hitmonlee faces is fight the optional Lass. She walks towards me and blocks the path. However, after I defeat her, I can head back to Pewter City, wait for the tileset color to change, and then go back to Route 3. This will reset her position and I can sneak around her. This is a nice little time savings, because fighting the bug catcher would mean that I would have to knock out 4 Pokemon, 2 of which are Weedle and Kakuna. I spend some of this time kicking this Lass's Jigglypuff. It serves her right, because she caused me so much pain when I was using Porygon. Yeah, this feels good. In Mount Moon, I skip all the optional trainers, grab the rare candy, and then head to the basement where I pick up Mega Punch. With the name of like the Kicking Fiend, I always forget that Hitmonlee does in fact have arms as well. This TM is optional, but it's going to speed up the progress on Nugget Bridge because it's helpful against poison types. Funny story now, I played the opening half of this Hitmonlee playthrough 3 times, and each time I was stopped by computer issues, crashes, freezes, OBS problems. So I knew that I needed Mega Punch here because I had tried it once before without it, and honestly that just isn't a good option. I arrive in Cerulean at level 15, and here I face the optional rival. He opens with Spearow. It's scary because it knows Peck, but Hitmonlee moves first, gets a crit with Double Kick, and knocks it out. Sandshrew is next, and I knock it out without issues. So this fight ends up being a complete breeze. Now, there's a really important step to do here after I get past the trainers on Nugget Bridge. I want to fight this optional hiker. By doing so, I can cause this junior trainer to move out of the way, and that lets me grab Seismic Toss. In Generation 1, it's a fixed damage move, dealing damage equal to your level, so this is really important. If you were examining Hitmonlee's learn set on the right side of the screen, you will have noticed that it can't learn any moves that can deal damage to ghosts. Well, fixed damage moves do. So Bide, Counter, and Seismic Toss are my only options for Pokemon Tower. And then later on, when I get access to Mimic, I can use it against Agatha. I get Bill the help he needs, and then I head to Misty's gym. I was a bit worried about the junior trainer in front of her because this Goldeen knows Peck. Like, why? But yeah, it knows Peck. Hitmonlee doesn't take much damage though, and now it's time for Misty. She opens with Staryu. I'll set up Meditate here to ensure that I one-shot the Starmie after I get hit. After 4, I'm ready to start attacking. Mega Punch 1 hits Staryu. Her Psychic type base is last. Luckily it doesn't have any Psychic type moves. It goes first, uses Water Gun, Hitmonlee survives, and Mega Punch knocks it out. I clock in with a time of 13 minutes and 8 seconds. On the SSN, I skip Rest. I usually grab this in all my first playthroughs because once the ship leaves, you can never come back to get it, but I think that Hitmonlee is so good that it's not going to need it. After that, I get access to Body Slam. This is such an incredible move when you have 120 base attack. Also, Brock's badge gives me the 12.5% attack boost, so it's even better. At level 25, I face Surge. Raichu comes out, Hitmonlee moves second with Body Slam. I was really hoping for Paralysis here, but I don't end up getting it. Then the Electric Mouse uses a Thunderbolt, and it does so much damage. And I'm just going to let you hear my live reaction to this moment. So here it is. Oh, yes! Yes! What? That was awesome! It appears that level 25 is the minimum level that's smart for Hitmonlee to face Surge at. I want to survive all those Thunderbolts. It clocks in with a time of 16 minutes and 38 seconds. On Route 3, Hitmonchan struggles again. Well, it doesn't struggle, but if it did, it would actually be easier, I think, because Comet Punch runs out of PP, and I have to go back to Nurse Joy to heal me before I can make it to Mount Moon. Because I'm overleveled from Brock, I skip the optional trainers and head straight for Mega Punch. It's nice not to have to use Comet Punch anymore. The cruel irony of this, though, is that Mega Punch has the same accuracy, and if Comet Punch hits 5 times, it actually does more damage. I defeat the Super Nerd, grab the Dome Fossil, this is the best fossil, and then I defeat Jesse and James with ease. By the way, if they end up poisoning you and you have more than 26 health, you'll make it to the Pokemon Center in Cerulean to heal, so you don't need to waste time opening the inventory and healing with an antidote. The rival on Nugget Bridge restores my morale and faith in Hitmonchan. Mega Punch 1 hits Spearow, 2 hits Sandshrew, allowing me to avoid Sand Attack this time, it 1 hits Rattata, and finishes off the final Eevee. Things feel really good. Just don't look at the clock. An issue with Nugget Bridge is that Hitmonchan's PP just isn't up to the task of defeating the hiker, so I have to go back to Cerulean to heal once. There is a solution to this though, but that's for later. Right now, I need to decide if I want to face Misty right away or head to Vermilion to get Body Slam first. I decide to go for Body Slam because Hitmonchan doesn't have Meditate, so I'm really scared against Misty. I save before the Rocket, he has the first Pokemon with a Psychic type move in the game. Mega Punch 1 hits the Machop, but then it misses on the Drowsy, it uses Confusion, and Hitmonchan faints. I win the next fight and make my way to the SSN. Because Hitmonchan is Hitmon bad, I grab Rest, and then I grab Body Slam. This makes the next rival fight very easy. I dig back to Cerulean and face Misty. She opens with Staryu. Because I'm level 26, I have 57 speed. This is just what I need. Misty's Starmie has 56 speed, so Hitmonchan's moving first without agility. Body Slam connects, does more than half. Starmie uses Water Gun. It doesn't do much, and then I finish the fight. Hitmonchan clocks in with a time of 41 minutes and 52 seconds. Next is Surge. He opens with Raichu, it moves first, fails a Growl, okay, that's good. Hitmonchan Body Slams, paralyzes, moves first, and knocks Raichu out. 42 minutes and 51 seconds. Do note that I have a custom ROM that automatically solves the trash can puzzle for me, so there's no RNG time included in the Surge split. Thanks again, Greg, for making this ROM for me. I really appreciate it. I've played a lot of Pokemon Yellow over the last year, not including Porygon. I've probably played this game over 100 times. And all of this experience has taught me that the journey from Cerulean City to Lavender Town is like a mini Elite Four. There are so many strong trainers along this route. For Hitmonchan and Hitmonlee, 2 of these challenging trainers are the Pokemaniacs who have Slowpoke. but strangely Hitmonchan doesn't struggle against them today. But it has one challenge left. This is like the champion of this route, the self-destructing hiker. My only answer here is Seismic Toss. It does half damage to the first Geodude, but then it self-destructs in response. Great. Alright, so I can definitely lose this fight. The second one goes down to 2 Seismic Tosses, and now I just need Graveler to fight fair. It's in 2-hit range, it doesn't blow up, and Hitmonchan moves on. Alright, I've arrived at the mid-game now. And I have a small heart palpitation here as I almost gave myself a big PP Charmander, but luckily I don't. After that, I sell items in the department store and buy Hitmonchan vitamins. There's the option of grabbing Submission right now, but I'm going to skip it because of the recoil damage. There's also the option to add Counter to my moveset, but yeah, we talked about it before. Counter is not good. Pokemon Tower's next. The rivals first, I use Body Slam, Furo uses Mirror Move, and then I knock it out. That's probably not the best position for the rest of this fight. Most of his Pokemon don't go down in a single hit. In retrospect, I think that it probably makes most sense to use Agility first turn to get 1 attack boost for this fight. With him out of the way, it's time to face the first ghost in the game. Seismic Toss is obviously my answer, and it takes care of each of them in 2 hits. I say it before Jesse and James, and then I take them out, grab the Pokeflute, and head to the Safari Zone. Because Erica has Pokemon with decent special, I decide that training in the dojo next might be the best course of action. Against the Dojo Master, Hitmonlee gets a critical hit against Hitmonchan. Yuck. Hitmonchan's next. My doppelganger uses Fire Punch, crits, and knocks me out. The pain of this Hitmonchan playthrough is only getting worse. I have to do this entire section of the game from Jesse and James over again. Repeating this section of the game, I decide to skip the dojo. I'll come back for this experience later when Hitmonchan's at a higher level. Instead, I train in Erica's gym. Hitmonchan levels up to 33, and it starts to learn Fire Punch. And I'm just gonna show you how this moment unfolded on stream. So yeah, here it is. Like, EVs don't exist. Do I get Fire Punch? So like, this is the funniest thing. No, you don't get Fire Punch even against the grass. This is the worst. At this point, I had to make a really tough choice. Start the playthrough all over again and get Body Slam back, or continue using something like Strength as a proxy for it. I do have the ability to edit my save file, but that just feels really unfair, especially if I'm going to report that result at the end of this video. So I decided to go for the latter option here and complete this playthrough with Hitmonchan. It's going to give me more information about the other fights in the run, and I am going to be able to use Strength as a sort of proxy for Body Slam. By the way, just watch and see how little damage super effective Fire Punch does to these grass types. Yeah, this is why I'm avoiding using these elemental punches. Now it's time for Erica. Against Tangela, I use Fire Punch twice. Yeah, it's doing a third. It's not very good. However, Hitmonchan takes too much damage and Weepinbell knocks it out. In the next fight, I try to use Mega Punch instead. It isn't doing much more to the bulky vine monster. It doesn't even knock the Weepinbell that follows out. And that means that I'm going into the fight with Gloom in a terrible spot. He uses Petal Dance, and Hitmonchan faints again. Then Weepinbell gets a crit with Razor Leaf. Okay, right now I'm really glad this thing isn't Victory Bell, but this is still bad. I wasn't really sure what the next best step was. I teach Hitmonchan Submission in the place of Fire Punch because Fire Punch is just useless. Then I level up a bit more and face Erica again. This time I use 3 turns of Agility to set up, and then I start my sweep with Mega Punch. This gets the job done. 1 hour, 5 minutes, and 56 seconds. Many Pokemon have finished the game by this time. Next, I train in the dojo, get my revenge here, and then continue my training in Sylph. The choice now is, should I face Koga or the rival next? Because Koga's entire team knows Psychic, I don't think that that's a good choice. So it's time for the rival. I set up Agility twice, use Submission, it does half. I take recoil damage. This move is so bad. I use Mega Punch instead, Sandslash doesn't faint, it takes me all the way down to 26 hit points, and then I knock it out. So I wanted to use Submission against the Cloyster, but now if I do, I'm gonna lose. So instead, I have to try Seismic Toss. It doesn't do half, but then the Shellfish just withdraws and misses Supersonic, allowing me to knock it out. I miss Mega Punch on Magneton, it confuses me, fails a second Supersonic, and I snap out of confusion and knock it out. Okay, this is going pretty well. I outspeed the Kadabra and KO it with 1 turn of Mega Punch. And all that remains now is Flareon. Mega Punch does half, it misses Fire Spin, I punch again for the win, but Flareon survives. And then misses Sand Attack, that's fitting, and then Hitmonchan wins. I cannot believe that fight. That was so lucky. As I defeat Giovanni, I need to start thinking about what I'm going to do next. It's a choice now between Koga and Sabrina. I think that I have to fight Koga next, and this means I have to get by the 2 jugglers in his gym. And the second one with Hypno stops me. Not once, but twice because Mega Punch missed. Now, why am I still using this move when I could be using Strength? Well, the reason is that in Generation 1 there's no move deleter, so this means that once I've learned it, I can never remove it, and that makes my moveset far less flexible. However, I think it's time to learn it now. With it, I can make it past the juggler, and I earn myself the right to face the Ninja Master. Koga opens with Venonat. I set up 1 turn of agility to ensure that I outspeed the Venomoth, and then Venonat uses Psychic, doing almost half to Hitmonchan and lowering my special. I use Strength, hoping for the KO, but I don't get it and Koga finishes me. Perhaps now is the time to use some rare candies and see. I use 3, leveling up to 45, and try again. I'm tanking Psychic better, Strength is one-hitting the Venonats, but my spree comes to an end when the 3rd survives. It uses Psychic and knocks Hitmonchan out. Okay, so I should train. I should really not use my rare candies too early in this playthrough. That's always a big mistake. While I complete this training, let's see how Hitmonlee is doing. It crushes its way through Rock Tunnel. Double Kick gives a reliable solution to the self-destructing hiker, and then I grab Swift just in case. After that, I sell some items and buy some vitamins. One thing that I didn't mention is that with Hitmonlee, I was unable to catch a flyer before Brock. Now I have to grab one. The problem is the Doduo here no Peck. I was worried that it might knock Hitmonlee out, but instead I run out of Pokeballs, so I have to reset. You might say you should not include this time in the playthrough, but I actually think that it's very consistent to get a flyer because you can just catch one in Viridian Forest. Overall, I like including this because some Pokemon are just better at catching these bird Pokemon than others. For example, with Hitmonlee, it's very risky because of its typing, whereas if you had something like Golem, it would be extremely easy. On the next one, I get luckier, I catch it, and with that, the Kicking Fiend is off to Pokemon Tower. For this fight, I need to explain the rival's AI. He has good AI here, and that means he's going to choose moves that are super effective against my Pokemon's type. So Furo will choose flying type moves. Turns out, its only flying type move is Mirror Move. That means that Hitmonlee can set up here for free. After 2 meditates, I knock the bird out with Double Kick. And then, the rest of this fight is trivial because of my attack stat. Okay, Chandler time. Hitmonlee is also knocking these ghosts out in 2 hits. I grab the flute, go to the Safari Zone, and then head back to Erica's gym. I skip training in here, but I still have to make my way through 1 mandatory trainer. Her Execute has Hypnosis and Reflect, and she has good AI, so she's just going to spam these 2 moves. It can be an annoying fight, but today I make it through it without any issues. Now it's Erica time. Against Tangela, I want to get as many meditates off as possible. Hitmonlee's low special means Tangela is dealing a lot of damage with its grass-type moves. Because of that, I'm only able to squeeze in 3 turns of setup before the situation is critical. The thing is that Hitmonlee is fast, but it doesn't knock Tangela out. I was so scared, but Erica uses a potion instead of attacking, and that gives Hitmonlee the sweep. 28 minutes and 5 seconds. Sylph is likely the next best choice because I can level up a bit more and then use rare candies to face the rival. I'm not worried about Hitmonlee being underleveled in the late game, so I don't have a reason to spend time training. I chose not to learn Rolling Kick here, and the reason is that Double Kick does the same amount of damage, but it has more accuracy. Against the rival, I only get 1 turn of setup before Sandslash gets a crit with Slash. I've got to go for it now. I get lucky because it doesn't slash again before fainting. Cloyster falls to a Double Kick, Magneton survives, uses Sonic Boom, and that softens me up, so now I'm going to need to one-hit the following 2 Pokemon. That's a given against Kadabra because I outspeed, but what about the Flareon? Double Kick does just enough to take it out. So now I'm heading over to Koga's gym, and here Hitmonlee's higher attack stat allows me to make it through the jugglers in Koga's gym on the first attempt. But will Koga be easy? I use 1 Meditate, Psychic does half to me, and then I use Body Slam hoping that it'll KO the Venonat. And it does. However, the next one's 2 levels higher. That allows it to survive with the Sliver, use Psybeam, and that gives me 1 more turn. Maybe with 2 critical hits I can win? I don't get what I need and Koga defeats me. I try again immediately, hoping that I can get a second Meditate in. This time Venonat crits with Psychic, so that's another loss. Okay, let's try again. This time Koga uses X-Attack, giving me 2 turns of setup, and with it the Nats are an easy sweep. But Venomoth is a Psychic type, and I'm worried about it. Unfortunately, it moves first with Psychic, and that's all that it needs. I checked to see what its speed stat was immediately after this fight, and it turns out that it has 103 speed. Hitmonlee has 102 speed. I lost that fight by 1 speed. I come back 1 level higher, which fixes my speed problem. I hope for X-Attack, it doesn't happen and Hitmonlee faints again. He defeats me one more time before I get the X-Attack luck that I need. I make it to Venomoth again for the second time. I use Body Slam, but the Moth survives. Koga is clearly aware of how painful it is for me to be playing through with Hitmonchan at the same time though, so he uses X-Attack, allowing Hitmonlee to take the victory. It clocks in with a time of 35 minutes and 51 seconds. That's a minute faster than Clefable's record Koga split. Hitmonlee is putting itself in a position to be the fastest Pokemon that I've used yet. For Hitmonchan, the pain isn't over though. I just keep losing to Koga. I level up, come back, lose again, level up to 50, and at this level I can't even one-hit the third Venonat. Koga uses X-Attack, giving Hitmonchan some luck, but Venomoth survives, uses Psychic, and I lose again. That's 21 resets so far in this playthrough. And then on the next fight, to truly demoralize me, the second Venonat survives, and it knocks Hitmonchan out. Right now my options are kind of limited with the playthrough. Other than fight Koga, there's really only two things that I can do. I can train, or I can fight Sabrina. Strangely enough, Sabrina might be more manageable for Hitmonchan because it has agility. She also lost her good AI in yellow, so she's not always going to be using Psychic type moves against me. Turn 1, I hope that Abra doesn't use Flash so that I can set up agility. It does, of course it does, but Strength still connects. I knock the following Kadabra out. All that's left is Alakazam. I use Strength, Outspeed, and knock it out. 1 hour, 32 minutes, and 46 seconds. I wish that Hitmonchan had leveled up though, because now I'm back in the same situation that I was in before. I try to always save before using rare candies so that if I can't make it work at the higher level, I can reset instead of using the rare candies. This way I can use them later on when they allow me to skip more experience points. So I have a total of 8 right now, and I could use them all to defeat Koga. The consequence of this though is that it is going to make the late game harder. But right now I think I just need them. At level 58 I can one-shot the first Venonat without setup, but the second one survives. The third one is another one hit, and then it's Moth time. It survives, uses Psychic, and my level 58 Hitmonchan faints. I had a realization here, the second one knows Psybeam, so it will choose between Psychic and Psybeam, so it's better to set up there than on the first one, which only knows Psychic. Using this strategy, I'm able to emerge victorious on the next fight. Hitmonchan's going into the late gyms with a Gym 6 split of 1 hour, 34 minutes, and 45 seconds. Let's think about the positives. It's nice that Hitmonchan is overleveled. This lets it defeat Blaine on its first attempt. After that, I train a little bit in the final gym, grab some last-minute vitamins, and go head-to-head with Giovanni. I know that Fissure can't knock me out here because Hitmonchan outspeeds Dugtrio. I take this time to set up 3 agilities. Unfortunately, Dugtrio gets a crit with Dig on its last turn in battle, taking me to half health. The Persian and the Nidos are not challenging, but I arrive at Rhydon with red health. So, submission. Yeah, it's bad. I can't use it again. It's gonna knock me out if I do. And that's 1 loss. There is a better strategy here though. I can use Mimic to steal Dugtrio's Earthquake. It, paired with Hitmonchan's attack stat, allows me to sweep through his team, arriving at Rhydon. Again, with red health. I use Earthquake, cross my fingers, and it does it. 1 hour, 42 minutes, and 46 seconds. By the way, I completed the game with Mankey in 1 hour, 42 minutes, and 2 seconds on my first attempt with it. So that's just a little fact that we can use to compare Hitmonchan with. I think that my nickname right now is very fitting. Watching back the footage of the final rival fight, I'm really not sure what I was thinking. I should have just mimicked Slash here for the guaranteed critical hit, but I still win here on my first attempt, so that's okay. I'm going to do more playthroughs with Hitmonchan anyways, so I can correct that error later. So how does Hitmonlee manage the later gyms? Sabrina's Alakazam has 133 speed, and my Hitmonlee only has 118 after the passive badge boost. That means that I need 1 more speed to be able to meditate once to outspeed Sabrina's Pokemon. 2 turns of setup on the average just doesn't feel like a good idea, so I'm going to choose to face Blaine first instead. He opens with Ninetales, I use Meditate turn 1, and then a massive Flamethrower takes Hitmonlee to 5 hit points, and burns it. The next fight is a great example of why increasing your attack stat against the Ninetales is a bad idea. After boosting 2 stages, I hit myself in Confusion twice, dealing double damage to myself, and that's another reset. Setting up on the Rapidash is going to be much safer. Double Kick allows Ninetales to go down in 2 turns, but Rapidash does so much damage with Takedown, I don't KO it and lose again. I lose 3 more times, and then I finally decide that I should probably just be facing Sabrina first. To gain the extra speed that I need, I face the trainers in the dojo to level up. Sabrina opens with Abra. I use Meditate, allowing me to outspeed everything on her team. Flash fails, that's really lucky, and because of that, this fight's over. I clean sweep her team and clock in with a time of 42 minutes and 8 seconds. Okay, I have to face Blaine now, and this fight's very frustrating. He's so good in yellow. In red and blue, he's awful. Hitmonlee would be much faster in those games just because of the changes made to Koga and Blaine alone. Hitmonlee is really living up to its glass cannon status right now. If it isn't one-hitting, it's getting wrecked. Finally, I get a lucky fight against Blaine. Rapidash does nothing to me, and I set up. With that, I can knock it out for free. Arcanine doesn't choose Fire Blast or Flamethrower, that's lucky, and then I knock it out over 2 turns, splitting at 44 minutes and 4 seconds. I train in the gym, then buy some vitamins, and come back to face Giovanni. Okay, so I forgot to heal here? I set up Meditate, Dugtrio digs, I set up again, tank its hit, and knock it out with Body Slam. Double Kick manages Persian with super effective damage. Body Slam doesn't knock out the Nidoqueen, but it uses Tail Whip. Yes, it knows Tail Whip. Nidoking follows suit, and it uses Leer. It fails, and then it faints. Wonderful move choice, Giovanni. All that's left is Ride On. I kick it, and it faints. So Hitmonlee clocks in with a time of 47 minutes and 11 seconds. I can't believe that I did that without healing. At the final rival, I had a revelation. I don't think that I ever set up 6 Meditates. Hitmonlee is just so good that it only needs between 1 and 3. I sweep his team, and with that, Hitmonlee's ready for the league. I start the Lorelei fight at 51 minutes. She leads with Dugong. I body slam to ensure that it rests, and while it sleeps, I set up Meditate. Here's how I was feeling in the moment when Hitmonlee knocks the Dugong out in a single hit. Like, oh my gosh, I one-hit the Dugong. Hitmonlee. Oh, I leveled up. It doesn't matter, actually. It was only boosting my speed. Hitmonlee. Oh my gosh. This thing is unstoppable. But will it be unstoppable against Bruno? He's the greatest member of the Elite Four after all. I set up 4 Meditates against Onyx. This is going to ensure that I one-hit the rest of his team. With the setup, the rest of the fight is trivial. But the true test of my fighting type is what lies ahead. Agatha. Seismic Toss has been essentially dead weight on my moveset this entire time, but I need it so that I can defeat her. I try the fight without Mimic, but this just seems nearly impossible. So it's time to steal Substitute. With it, I'm able to avoid Agatha's confusion tactics, but there are still many threats. The first Gengar has Mega Drain, a powerful special move that can do a lot of damage to my Substitute. The Golbat has Wing Attack, which is super effective. Haunter has Hypnosis, which does work even if I have a Substitute in place. The Arbok has Glare, this also works if I have a Substitute. And the final Gengar has Psychic and Hypnosis. So even using the Substitute strategy, this fight is a complete gauntlet. One thing to note here is that the Pokemon's Substitute takes damage using the Pokemon's stats. That means that Hitmonlee's Substitute fails really quickly because it has low defense and special. After losing 2 fights, it becomes really clear to me that I need rest to add consistency here. By healing, I can set up more Substitutes, ensuring that Hitmonlee has the time it needs to knock her Pokemon out. So this is how it feels when I skip rest on the SSN. I chose not to play safely early on to try and get a better real time, and now I have to defeat Agatha with this moveset. After a few more resets, I try mimicking Lick. It's a physical move, and it's super effective against the ghosts, who have very little physical defense. The issue with this choice is that I don't have safety to set up Meditate, meaning that Lick's low power isn't enough to one-hit Gengar. This was so painful. Agatha knocks Hitmonlee out over and over and over. The hour mark passes me by, and I start to wonder, is this Hitmonlee's turn to get 200 resets against Agatha? I really hope it isn't. This time, I'm not relying on freeze and critical hit luck like I was in my old Hitmonchan video, so I think that I can do this soon. Stay positive, Scott. You can do this. You'll notice me setting up Meditate in this fight, and this is for the badge boost. As my defenses increase, my Substitute becomes more and more durable. This is clearly evident when Golbat uses Wing Attack, and my sub doesn't break. I knock the bat out, and then I finish the Gengar. Please, no Hypnosis from the Haunter. It doesn't use it, and I'm moving on. This is close though. 14 health remaining. Arbok fails a Screech, uses Glare, but it fails, and then I knock it out. It's final Gengar time. Seismic Toss does 1/3, Gengar fails a Confuse Ray, and then fails a Dream Eater, and Hitmonlee knocks it out. I'm finally past Agatha. Next time, I'm definitely picking up rest. But let's get real, I am not sure that the nightmare is over. Lance is next, and his Aerodactyl has Fly and Wing Attack. The fact that 3 of his Pokemon are flying types cuts Hitmonlee's damage. I think I'll need some level of setup as a result to knock out his team members. In the first fight, I try to steal Hyper Beam and use it on Gyarados, but I get knocked out doing this. Seismic Toss is obviously useless now, and I can learn Strength in its place. This will give me more reliable damage against the Gyarados. The first fight with this moveset, Gyarados gets a critical hit though with Hyper Beam and Hitmonlee faints. Even with 3 turns of setup, Strength doesn't one-shot Lance's lead. However, Leer badge boosts me, and then I knock it out on the next turn with a slight increase to my damage. The Dragonairs are easy to sweep, and then I make my typical mistake by accidentally using Meditate on Aerodactyl. It uses Wing Attack and knocks Hitmonlee out. Then I realize that with 3 Meditates, the Dragonairs are actually a roll. That really doesn't feel good. At Aerodactyl, I choose the correct move and I knock it out, but Dragonite is gonna survive. It does, uses Blizzard, and oh no. Yes! Hitmonlee survives and takes the victory. 1 hour, 6 minutes, and 32 seconds. Let's see how Hitmonchan does during the league. I've mentioned it before that Lorelei has strange AI, but I've never really explained it in depth. The game checks to see if the trainer is Lorelei and if the Pokemon on the field is Dugong. If both of these are true, then it modifies the good AI script so that 2/5 of the time she views her moves as neutrally effective. This is to avoid the soft lock with Dugong where it spams Rest and your Pokemon uses Rage. There's a video about it, I've linked it here. This does mean that Hitmonchan can take damage here. However, Dugong uses Aurora Beam and gets a Gen 1 miss. I fully set up and then I knock it out. Cloyster's next. I use Seismic Toss and it does half damage. Literally half. This thing has 124 health. It misses Supersonic and I knock it out. But the Pokemon that's next is the one that I'm most scared for. Slowbro. In yellow, its moveset is Surf, Withdraw, Psychic, and Amnesia. Lorelei has AI modification too, so she'll use Amnesia on the second turn for sure, but first turn she could connect with Psychic while I'm trying to steal Amnesia. She uses Psychic, Hitmonchan doesn't take too much damage, that's pretty good. I try to get set up, but unfortunately, Slowbro knocks Hitmonchan out with its second Psychic. On the next fight, I get back to Slowbro, decide to knock it out right away. It's thinking the same thing and takes Hitmonchan down first. By the way, in Red and Blue, this Slowbro knows Growl, Water Gun, Withdraw, and Amnesia. So it's just going to use Amnesia over and over again, making this fight trivial. I really do at some point want to make a series that compares Pokemon Yellow and Pokemon Red and Blue, because I really want to play those games again. It's been a while and I miss those awful sprites. Okay, back to this fight. What I really want here is 6 badge boosts and a higher special stat when I face the Lapras. I don't think that Strength is going to one-hit it, so I'm using this strategy to become both more defensive and offensive at the same time. Oh, Gen 1, I love you. Unfortunately, even with 6 badge boosts, I don't one-hit the Slowbro, and it takes me into red health. Jinx obviously faints to a single Strength, and that leaves only Lapras. I use Strength, it does more than half, Lapras retaliates with Blizzard, but Hitmonchan survives. Yes! All of the Amnesia's paid off. I'm moving on to Bruno. I'm making a mistake by setting up here. I was level 62 during the entire Lorelei fight, so I'm going to level up right away and reset my badge boosts. I steal Dig and knock Onix out. Hitmonchan's next. But it isn't an issue to take out because I get a critical hit. Hitmonlee follows, Strength connects, I have a minor heart palpitation as it doesn't go down, but it doesn't use anything and then I knock it out. His following Onix also survives, gets an Earthquake, and that weakens me before it faints. Machamp is last. I use Dig, it doesn't do much because of an X defend, and then Machamp uses Submission, knocking Hitmonchan out. Don't worry, this was to be expected. Bruno is the best Elite Four member after all. I make it back to Machamp on the next fight. Bruno uses X defend, I dig for a third, Machamp Karate Chops me, taking me into orange health. My second dig does 1/3, and then Machamp ends the battle with Strength. Let's take a moment while this footage continues to play. Deep breaths. This is possible. I can do it. Hitmonchan is not that bad, right? Like, it's not Tangela before Brock, and it's not Zubat during the league. I can do this. The next fight, I realized that I should be setting up on the Hitmonlee. By doing this, I take the badge boosts with me into the final 2 Pokemon. Onix gets a huge crit though, taking Hitmonchan down to red health, and now I have to play the lottery against Machamp. But luckily, this machine's rigged because Bruno uses his signature Leer, allowing Hitmonchan to finally take the win. Now, my last Hitmonchan playthrough was a nightmare all because of Agatha. I never want to experience something like that ever again. Please don't let history repeat itself. I don't want 200 resets here. I've actually never gone into triple-digit resets since I introduced the reset counter, so I'm just hoping that today is not the first time. Gengar is annoying because it confuses me before I get my substitute in place, and I take more than half damage. Agatha switches for Golbat, it hits my sub with Wing Attack, surprisingly it doesn't break, and then I start my setup with Agility. The badge boost will make my next substitute more durable. Golbat destroys the first one, I use Strength, knock it out, and set up again on Gengar. I've only got 35 health remaining, and I don't have Rest. Seismic Toss takes the Gengar down, Haunter is a 2-hit, and it doesn't use Hypnosis. Agatha sends out Arbok. And while it's wrapping, she switches to Gengar. Good move, Agatha. Ghost breaks my substitute with Psychic, and now I'm completely defenseless. I use Seismic Toss, Gengar uses Dream Eater, and then it goes down. Wait, is this possible? Seismic Toss manages the final Arbok, and Hitmonchan wins against Agatha on its first attempt. So that feels really good. Nice! However, the final boss for Hitmonchan might very well be Lance's Aerodactyl. It knows Fly and Wing Attack, and I don't have any good moves against it. I decide to steal Hyper Beam from Gyarados. This turns out really badly for me. I miss against the first Dragonair, it paralyzes me, but this isn't the end of the world because in Generation 1, if I use Agility, it resets the speed drop caused by paralysis. By doing this, I'm able to outspeed the Dragonairs and even the Aerodactyl. But unfortunately, it isn't enough and Hitmonchan goes down. Seismic Toss is dead weight now that Agatha's out of the way, so I teach it Submission in its place. Yes, I'm actually going to try and use Submission against Lance. Turn 1, I mimic Hyper Beam, Gyarados lands a massive Hydro Pump, putting Hitmonchan in a bad position. And then it uses Hydro Pump again, and I faint. Okay, whatever. I realize that mimicking Hyper Beam here first is likely a mistake. Setting up Agility immediately makes more sense because it adds to my defense. But Gyarados gets a crit, and that ends the fight anyways. So Hitmonchan is starting to fall apart. But maybe I'm trying to set up too much. With 1 Agility, Hitmonchan can steal Hyper Beam, one-shot the Gyarados, and both Dragonairs. With that, it's Aerodactyl time. I use Submission, and it takes it out. All that remains is Dragonite. Hyper Beam does good damage, but it doesn't do quite enough, and Lance ends the fight with Thunder. But that was a lot closer. What I missed in the last fight is that Hitmonchan had 2 badge boosts, one from Agility and one from Leer. After this playthrough's 36th reset, I get 3 badge boosts, and then make it all the way to the Dragonite, arriving there with orange health. I use Hyper Beam, it survives with a Sliver, hits Hitmonchan with Blizzard, but I survive with 5 hit points. Lance heals Dragonite to full, giving me another chance for Hyper Beam. Maybe I'm going to get a good roll, but Dragonite survives again. It misses its attack, but connects with its second hit while I recharge. That was so close. Here, I had a realization. Maybe setting up against the Gyarados is risky because it can deal so much damage. Instead, I can knock it out as soon as possible with Strength, and then steal Hyper Beam and set up on the next Dragonair. It can paralyze me, but since I'm using Agility, I can negate the speed drop. From there, I can knock the Aerodactyl out with Submission, but I still can't get past the Dragonite, so this strategy isn't panning out. It's not making a noticeable improvement over just trying to set up against the Gyarados. Alright, despite Hitmonchan's incredibly subpar special, maybe the traditional Mimic strats are the best play here. I set up on the Gyarados 3 times, even getting a nice badge boost along the way, and then I knock it and the Dragonair out. At the second one, I mimic Ice Beam. I was scared that Dragonair might knock me out here, but it uses Bubble Beam. Hitmonchan survives and doesn't get its speed lowered. Okay, that's good for Aerodactyl. Now I use Ice Beam, I cross my fingers and hope that my special is enough to one-hit the Aerodactyl. And it does, without a crit. Dragonite is last. I use Ice Beam for 4 times damage and it takes the dragon down. Hitmonchan is moving on to the champion at 2 hours, 5 minutes, and 17 seconds. Hitmonlee is almost an hour faster at this point going into the champion. But will this fight be the barrier that it can't get past? Honestly, I don't think so. The Kicking Fiend is a beast. I start to set up on the Sandslash, it gives me 2 essentially free turns by spamming Poison Sting, but then it uses Earthquake. Hitmonlee faints to a single critical hit. On the next fight, I was shooting for only 2 turns of setup, but Sandslash gets Earthquake and Slash finishes the fight before I start to attack. On the next fight, I get 1 turn of setup, and now I'm in orange health, so I have to decide if I want to attack or not attack. I pause briefly to contemplate, and I decide to attack. Hitmonlee kicks Sandslash, but it only does half. However, the Shrew uses Poison Sting, so my next double kick takes care of it. Alakazam time. I outspeed, hit it with Strength, and it goes down. Executor. It's going to go for Hypnosis first turn because it's a psychic move. My Strength does half, and then Hitmonlee falls asleep. Its health isn't high enough, and it eventually faints. In the next fight, Sandslash poisons Hitmonlee, and this is exactly what I need to avoid Executor's Hypnosis. Without the sleep status, I'm able to knock it out and move on to the following Magneton. And from here, Hitmonlee is so well equipped to sweep. It clocks in with a time of 1 hour, 8 minutes, and 50 seconds. 34 resets at level 59 with a game time of 3 hours and 23 minutes. By the way, this is the fastest game time that I've ever achieved. I have to say, as amazing as Hitmonlee is, it's so apparent how frail it is. This squishiness led to inconsistencies and a high reset count. After this first playthrough though, it got a great time and I'm really excited to see what I can do with some optimization. But before that, let's find out how far behind Hitmonchan will be. At the champion, I see two approaches that might be very strong, either Mimic Slash or Earthquake. For the first fight, I choose Earthquake, but it doesn't work out. Before taking the champion on again, I decide that I should add Rest to my moveset. Now setting up against the Sand Slash is a bit more consistent. I can heal if I need to. I take it down, one-hit the Alakazam, and move on to the Exeggutor. It's going to use Hypnosis, so I use Rest. That way I get a free turn while it tries to put me to sleep. I unfortunately end up waking up with less HP than I went into the fight with. It's really annoying. I knock it out and move on to Cloyster. I have Earthquake against it. It does half, but then I have to heal. Cloyster traps me in Clamp, and Leech Seed heals it. I was hoping for 2 or 3 turns of Spike Cannon, but instead it gets a crit with Ice Beam, and that finishes me off. In the next fight, Sandslash traps me in a healing loop. I keep hoping for Poison Sting or Fury Swipes, but it gets enough Earthquakes and Slashes to force me to heal over and over. Finally, I decide to move on with Orange Health. After all, I can't stay here forever, my PP's draining. Alakazam's easy. I gamble on Exeggutor, it misses Hypnosis, and I knock it out. At Magneton, I decide to heal in preparation for Cloyster. I get lucky because Magneton uses 2 Screeches, giving me 2 more badge boosts. This lets Earthquake do half damage to Cloyster. I tank Ice Beam, and then I knock it out. All that's left is Flareon, and I have Earthquake. Hitmonchan finishes the game at 2 hours, 11 minutes, and 33 seconds, with 45 resets at level 67 with a game time of 6 hours and 7 minutes. Obviously, Hitmonchan felt much worse to use, like much worse. I usually find that fragile Pokemon are slightly less intuitive to use, especially on the first playthrough. They require more knowledge and planning to hit their peak performance. The bulkier, more defensive options are typically a bit easier to grasp and play on the first playthrough. I'm not talking about tanks here, I'm talking about just like Pokemon that have good offense but are a little bit more bulky. Today though, this wasn't the case. Hitmonchan's just really not very good, and Hitmonlee is excellent at what it does. Maybe things would have been different if I had Body Slam with Hitmonchan, but part of me thinks that that doesn't matter that much. Now, despite how obvious these results were, I want to figure out just how well I can perform with each of these Pokemon. To optimize the strategy for each Pokemon, I do some rigorous testing, and yes, I mean rigorous. Optimizing Porygon was really fun for me, so I take the same approach here, albeit with less playthroughs. So let's now review the results that I got from my tests by going through some footage from my 6th playthrough with each one of these Pokemon. How much time did I shave off each Pokemon's time? Can they beat the game at a lower level, with less resets? What strategies are optimal for each major barrier that they face? So here's what I discovered. For Hitmonchan, the first thing that I needed to test was Brock. Not how to beat him. Level 15 with depleted agility seems to be the sweet spot. It takes 3 damage from Geodude and deals 2 damage with each hit from Comet Punch. At level 14, it only deals 1 damage, making the fight far less consistent. The real test was how do I just get to Brock the fastest. Note that all these strategies include fighting the junior trainer in Brock's gym and depleting agility before facing Brock. So here's option 1. Use Struggle and Potions to defeat all the trainers in the forest. Heal when you run out of potions. Train south of Pewter City for the best average attack stat experience. 2. Skip all the trainers in the forest, fight the mandatory bug catcher, then train against wild Pokemon all the way until level 15, with the exception of the junior trainer. This option reduces the time fighting Metapod, depleting agility, and healing with potions when Struggle deals self-inflicted damage. 3. Fight the first 2 trainers in Viridian Forest, go back to town to heal, then fight the next 2. After that, either heal again or struggle to defeat the final bug catcher. 4. Deplete all of Comet Punch's PP each time you venture into Route 1 while completing Professor Oak's parcel. Then, defeat the trainers in Viridian Forest at a higher level, conserving Comet Punch PP against the trainers and delaying the need for struggle. The final option is actually what I ended up deciding on for my 6th Hitmonchan playthrough. I get amazing luck against the last with 2 Nidoran, and I knock out both of her Pokemon using only 2 PP from Comet Punch. I should have faced this bug catcher first, because having a higher level for the Nidoran would have been better. The first one knows Growl after all. With a higher level, I'm able to knock out both Caterpie with 2 PP each. That leaves 8 PP for the next bug catcher. And he's safe to face because if I get to his final Metapod, I can just spam out agility and struggle to win if Comet Punch hasn't been consistent enough. I luckily don't have to do that today. After that, I take the trip back to Viridian City to heal. This takes about the same amount of time as depleting Agility's PP, and it prevents me from using potions between the fights, so overall it's a time save. I defeat the next 2 bug catchers, and after that I'm level 12. From there, I train up on wild Pokemon, defeat the junior trainer, deplete my PP, and then face Brock. Same strategy as before. Comet Punch until struggle. In all my playthroughs, I never had more than 1 reset against Brock. So you can lose, but I think that this approach balances consistency and speed perfectly. Of course, you can probably just luck past Brock at a lower level with amazing luck from Comet Punch. Hitting 5 times in a row and critical hits really do amazing things. Hitmonchan clocks in with a time of 14 minutes and 40 seconds in my 6th playthrough. That's not my fastest split yet, but there was a lot of RNG determining when it clocks in. The factors contributing to this RNG are the fact that Metapod doesn't always show up right away at level 15. I can get suboptimal number of hits against Brock. I could get no crits against Brock as well, which is annoying. And I can also not get lucky against the trainers in the forest and have to go back to Viridian City to heal more than once. Okay, so we're moving on to Mount Moon finally. And this is a key area for Hitmonchan. The rival on Nugget Bridge gets very annoying if his Spearow uses Growl. To prevent this and save rare candies, I want to gain experience so that Hitmonchan one-shots the Spearow consistently with Mega Punch. To do this, I need to be level 20. So I'm going to gain experience in Mount Moon by facing trainers here. I face the Bug Catcher by the Rare Candy, the Lass, the Rocket after grabbing Mega Punch, the Youngster, the Super Nerd, I grab the Dome Fossil, and then I take on Jesse and James. I also knocked out 1 wild encounter, and with all of this, I get enough experience. Hitmonchan levels up to level 20 when it defeats James's Coughing. This makes the rival fight much easier because now I one-shot the Spearow. Against Sandshrew, I use Comet Punch, 5 hits will knock it out, and 1 Mega Punch won't, so this is the best first turn choice. Rattata is a 1-hit with Mega Punch, and then I do the same Comet Punch strategy for the Eevee. Now I mentioned before that PP is an issue on Nugget Bridge. Turning back and healing at the Pokemon Center wastes so much time, so I figured out how I could prevent this. Remember this Rocket that I faced in Mount Moon? There's a hidden Ether on the rock right next to him. By facing him, I can grab it and use it on Nugget Bridge, preventing the trip back to Cerulean to heal. I'm also using the Elixir before the optional Hiker, and that lets me get Seismic Toss. I then use the other hidden Ether to prevent a heal before Misty. For her, I have a branching strategy. Agility turn 1 to outspeed the Starmie. Turn 2, it becomes contextual based on Misty's turn 1. If she uses X Defend, then I'm going to use Seismic Toss to take the Staryu out in 2 turns. If she didn't boost its defense though, I'll use 1 more Agility and then Mega Punch, and that gets the job done. For Starmie, I use Mega Punch turn 1, and then I should use Seismic Toss turn 2 for the boosted accuracy, but in this case I just misclick and use Mega Punch again. This approach lets me get through this fight with the minimum number of turns. Surge can win, as is demonstrated by this first fight against him. Growl on turn 1 makes Raichu a 3-hit, and then he uses Thunderbolt twice. Seismic Toss can be useful here in case Raichu uses Growl again. I even explored using Agility turn 1 to counter his potential turn 1 X speed, and that also gives me more information about how the fight's panning out. If he uses Growl, then I can always switch into Seismic Toss if he's going to use it again. In the end, I just decide to go with Body Slam spam, and it's enough to win. In this playthrough, I made a mistake, and I forgot to heal before the self-destructing Hiker. I still would have won, but only if Graveler didn't get a crit when it exploded. I think the Pokemon Tower fight against Jesse and James might very well be the least lucky fight that I've had filming this video. The Arbok paralyzes me. This prevents me from moving 4 turns in a row, and with that, wheezing causes another reset. I'm able to get past them on my second fight though and move on to Erica. And this time I don't accidentally unlearn Body Slam. At level 35, this fight isn't fully consistent. I set up 3 agilities and then knock the Tangela out. This leaves Hitmonchan with red health for her final 2 team members. Weepinbell's a 1-hit with Body Slam, but Gloom survives. With 3 agilities, however, I put it in the range that it needs to be in for Erica to heal it with a super potion. She has a 50% chance to use the potions here, and this is the reason this fight's inconsistent, but overall I like these odds. Now Koga was a serious threat previously, but I figured out a way to get past him much earlier than level 58. Here's how I do it. I train in the dojo, and that takes Hitmonchan up to level 38 where it learns Ice Punch. Yes, I'm gonna use one of the elemental punches. Next, I train in Sylph to a minimum level of 42. However, I prefer level 44, it makes everything much more consistent. Then I face the rival. At level 44, Ice Punch will 2-shot the Sandslash. Today I get really lucky, and it freezes as well. This is a nice little bonus because now the Sandslash can't get a sand attack off, and I can also set up agility for free. This isn't required, it's just nice when it happens. So level 44 makes the Sandslash consistent, but at level 42, Seismic Toss will 2-hit the Cloyster. After that, Magneton's 2-hit with Body Slam. The only threat there is Thundershock and Paralysis. After that, Hitmonchan sweeps. I tried this fight with Submission in the place of Ice Punch, but it really isn't as good. Sandslash takes longer to knock out, and then you're more at risk of getting hit with Sand Attack. By finishing Sylph first, I can grab Mimic before Koga, and then I use it to steal Venonat's Sleep Powder. I'll always survive one Psychic, and he can use X attack on turn 1 like he does in this fight. Once Venonat's asleep, I can set up fully with Agility, badge boosting my attack stat. With it, I can one-shot the first Venonat and the second Venonat. The third survives though, wakes up, but I knock it out before taking damage. I put Venomoth to sleep, and then because Body Slam has the setup from the badge boosts, it is able to do more than half damage, and this prevents the Venomoth from doing damage even if it wakes up. So this strategy lets me beat Koga at level 47. I face Sabrina next in this playthrough. Hitmonchan only needs 1 agility to outspeed her team. Normally Abra gets an X-Defend or like misses Flash, it's pretty bad. But in this playthrough I get unlucky on the first fight, then I miss against Alakazam and it knocks me out with Psychic. Second fight it goes for Psychic right away and takes Hitmonchan out, but on the third fight I managed to defeat her. Before Blaine, I face the trainers in Pokemon Mansion and then the trainers in his gym. The experience raises Hitmonchan to level 51. To add consistency, I use 8 rare candies right before the fight with the Fire Master. The reason is that this gives me better ranges on his Pokemon so that I can 2-hit the first 2 and 3-hit the Arcanine. Fast knockouts on his first 2 team members are key to prevent uses of Confuse Ray, Tail Whip, and Growl. I lose 2 times because this fight isn't perfectly consistent before I finally win. Giovanni is last. I mimic Earthquake for this fight. At level 60, I can one-shot the Dugtrio, Nidoqueen, and Nidoking. An inconsistency here is that if I'm mimicking Earthquake from Dugtrio, it can of course use Sand Attack. Missing against Rhydon ends my first fight. Another issue is that Persian has Screech. With 2 stages lower defense, Rhydon's Earthquake does so much damage and finishes Hitmonchan off in fight 2. Fight 3 was unlucky because Rhydon got a crit with Fury Attack. It lasted for 4 hits. Finally on fight 4 I managed to take the victory, and this was really not my best performance at Giovanni by any means. The final rival fight after this is simple for Hitmonchan. If I just mimic Slash, Seismic Toss takes care of the Cloyster, and from there it's a sweep. Now for Lorelei I did a little bit of planning. For Seismic Toss to 2-hit Lorelei's Cloyster I need to be exactly level 62. So I face 1 optional trainer in Victory Road to level up. The strategy for Lorelei is to set up fully on Dugong, use Seismic Toss for the Cloyster. Slowbro is obviously terrifying, but Hitmonchan survives 1 Psychic and takes 2 Body Slams to knock it out. After that, Jinx is a 1-hit and Lapras is a 2-hit. The greatest risk here is that Lapras hits with Hydro Pump or Blizzard, but it misses and I take the win on my first attempt. You could use the Amnesia strategy to even things out here, but I think I like knocking the Slowbro out faster just a little bit more. Bruno time. Mimic Dig, one-shot Onix, Hitmonchan takes 3 hits, really annoying, you can't get frozen here. 1 hit the Hitmonlee, the second Onix survives, but can't do much damage, and then Body Slam turn 1 against Machamp for the possible paralysis, and then use Dig to knock it out. Now, you'd think that Agatha is difficult, but at this level, she really isn't. Hitmonchan's higher defense really helps here, making the Golbat and the Arbok do less damage, improving Substitute's reliability. I win against her on my first attempt in playthrough 6 as well. I actually only reset once against her in all 6 of these playthroughs. I cannot believe how well Hitmonchan does against her. Now, Lance was an area where I stumbled in my first playthrough, and here's how I solved this problem. Knock Gyarados out using 2 turns of Body Slam, then set up against the first Dragonair. By adding Rest to my moveset, I can heal, remove Paralysis, and then knock the Dragonair out. Mimic Ice Beam from the second one and use it to sweep his remaining Pokemon. I defeat Lance on my first attempt as well. It's champion time. I mimic Earthquake and then make it through his first 3 Pokemon. But for some reason, I don't use Earthquake on Magneton and I pay for it with a reset. However, on my second fight, I make it all the way to Flareon and finish him off. Hitmonchan clocks in with a time of 1 hour, 15 minutes, and 13 seconds. 11 resets at level 68 with a game time of 4 hours and 36 minutes. Here are all of Hitmonchan's results for playthrough 1 through 6. Comparing my 6th playthrough to my first playthrough, I was 56 minutes and 20 seconds faster with 35 less resets. I finished 1 level higher, which I think is good because I also reduced Hitmonchan's game time by 1 hour and 31 minutes. Here are the averages for these metrics, by the way, and in these averages I haven't included the first playthrough because I just made a lot of mistakes there. The Punching Fiend is getting an average real time of 1 hour 17 minutes with 8 resets, and an average level of 67 with 4 hours and 40 minutes of game time. Another YouTuber, Vanman, who does a lot of Pokemon challenges, uses a combined metric where he averages real time and game time together. A bunch of you have actually suggested this to me in the comments of many of my previous videos, but I was stubborn to implement this. These videos take a long time to make. Anyways, I just didn't want one extra piece of work to do. Going forward though, I'm going to provide these averaged time scores in my versus videos. But now let's find out how Hitmonlee did. Did it beat Clefable and earn the fastest time yet? Brock is consistent at level 8, just spam double kick, it's really easy. I plan for a Nugget Bridge rival so that I can one-shot the Spearow as well. It's the same reason as with Hitmonchan. Hitmonlee only needs level 16 to do this though. To get there, I face the Jigglypuff on Route 3, and then the optional trainer, Hiker, and Rocket in Mount Moon. I use the Ether that I pick up at the end of Nugget Bridge to skip the heal before Misty. For her, I set up 3 Meditates. This allows me to one-shot both Staryu and Starmie. Well, if I ever hit Starmie, that is. It's rare to lose here, but Mega Punch's accuracy is awful. I end up defeating her on my second attempt. Surge only takes 2 body slams. I'm using it instead of double kick because it has a chance to paralyze. In Rock Tunnel, it's important to save before each of the trainers with Slowpoke. Hitmonlee is so fragile, resetting here is just not what I want to do, and I would reset all the way back to Surge because that's the last time I saved. As I did playthrough after playthrough with Hitmonlee, I realized that it is extremely strong in the early to late game, but then it falls off hard once it reaches Agatha, Lance, and the champion. If it isn't able to one-hit, it's gonna have a hard time. So to prepare, I target a few specific areas for training. Erica's gym is the first. I fight a total of 5 optional trainers in here. Erica requires 2 Meditates. After that, I 2-shot the Tangela and 1-shot the following 2 Pokemon. Next, I continue my training in the Fighting Dojo. It's sort of fitting that I trained in here with both Hitmonchan and Hitmonlee in their playthroughs. Finally, I face 5 optional trainers in Sylph to level up. In my previous playthrough, I kept double kick for a long time because Vanman suggested to me that because it's 100% accurate, it should be better than other moves like jump kick or high jump kick. He plays a lot of Pokemon Red, by the way, and I think that that's good advice for those games. But in Yellow, Hitmonlee needs something more powerful to fight trainers like Blaine, Giovanni, and the Elite Four. So I teach it jump kick in the place of double kick. In Generation 1, if you miss and crash with this move, it only actually deals 1 damage in recoil. I do know, of course, that this move has 50% accuracy, but the boost in power is required. Before facing the rival, I use my rare candies. With Hitmonlee at level 45, I'm ready. I use 2 Meditates on Sandslash, and unfortunately uses Sand Attack. I crash with Jump Kick, get poisoned, crash again, and then finally take it out. Jump Kick misses Cloyster, it misses Clamp, and I knock it out. That was scary, but I am moving on. Magneton's a one-hit, and then I miss on Kadabra, and that allows it to KO me with Psybeam. Despite another Sand Attack connecting in the next fight, Hitmonlee comes through with some accurate kicking and knocks the remaining team members out on the rival's team. I buy some vitamins, and then I head to Fuchsia City to take on Koga. At this level, I can survive 2 Psychics, unless the first one lowers my special, that is, and that allows me to set up. After that, I can outspeed the Venomoth with my current speed stat. I do get 1 reset here, so it's annoying. During the second fight, I level up to 48 and teach Hitmonlee high jump kick over jump kick. This is very important. I tried to skip this move for the longest time during my testing because of its accuracy. However, I think it really is required. I survive, I get 2 Meditates up, and then I sweep Koga's team to earn the Soul Badge. I face Sabrina next. I'm actually speed tied with Alakazam right now, so I think it would have been better to use 1 additional Carbos sometime earlier on. Anyways, she doesn't have good AI, so I win on my first fight. Now, I learned high jump kick for a reason, and that's so that Hitmonlee can face Blaine at a lower level. His strong fire types just hit too hard with Flamethrower and Fire Blast to be consistent without additional damage. In Red and Blue, his team is at lower levels, and he spams Super Potions at full health, and he just doesn't have strong movesets. But in Yellow, he got a massive improvement, so I level up on some of the trainers in his gym before I face him. Ninetales is first. I want to knock it out right away to avoid Confuse Ray and Tail Whip. Well, and also Flamethrower too. It takes Hitmonlee into orange. Rapidash is next. I want to set up here because this fire type isn't as strong. With +2 attack, high jump kick 1 hits it, but I miss against the Arcanine and that's a loss. In the next fight, I get confused, but still manage to get my +2 attack. After that, high jump kick 1-shots both Rapidash and Arcanine. Giovanni time. High jump kick 1 hits the Dugtrio when Body Slam doesn't. It also 1 hits Persian. This lets me get to the Nidoqueen easily. It doesn't know moves that are particularly strong against Hitmonlee, like Earthquake and Thunder are the worst. I take some damage, but I get 4 Meditates set up. I would have set up less here if Giovanni didn't make completely awful move choices. After that, I sweep his team with Body Slam for the Nidos and High Jump Kick for the Rhydon. 3 Meditates makes the final rival an easy sweep. Hitmonlee in my 6th playthrough is off to the league at an outstanding time of 45 minutes and 40 seconds. That's not my fastest time yet with Hitmonlee, but it is a strong contender. Against Lorelei, I take a conservative approach, and I set up fully with Meditate against Dugong. The boost to my special and defense stats here will make Hitmonlee less frail in the case that High Jump Kick misses. It also boosts my attacks so much that Body Slam can now one-shot the Slowbro. I don't end up missing at all, and Hitmonlee sweeps her team. So yeah, Bruno, yeah, he's a bit scary here. I think that going for full setup here was a bit of an overcommitment and made this fight harder than it needed to be. But he isn't nearly as scary as what's next. I might have more knowledge for Agatha now, I know that I need rest, and I'm a higher level, but this fight is still awful. The reason that this is hard is that Hitmonlee needs to take this fight really slow, and as a glass cannon, this is fundamentally in opposition to how it likes to function. Setting up with Meditate to boost my substitute's defenses is really not fun with this thing. This does give me the time that I need to rest and then strike back with Seismic Toss. It just feels really strange using a fixed damage move when my attack stat is 864. Why can't I just learn Dig and sweep her with ease? One of the most frustrating things about this fight is that the hardest part is at the end. Arbok and Gengar are the worst. The Cobra can use Screech, Wrap, and Glare, all of which are dangerous. In my first fight, I faint to Acid after my defense stat is completely trashed. In the next fight, I make it to the final Gengar, but it's also terrifying. Hypnosis puts me to sleep, Dream Eater breaks my substitute, and Psychic knocks me out. On my third fight, I try to YOLO it and just spam Seismic Toss even with my sub down, but this doesn't pay off. I lose one more time. I decide to not set up Meditate and instead try to sweep with Seismic Toss as fast as possible. This ends up with Hitmonlee facing Gengar with no substitute left. That's not ideal. Gengar misses Hypnosis, Agatha uses a Super Potion, Gengar uses Dream Eater when I'm awake, and Hitmonlee takes the win. In playthroughs 2 to 6, the average time spent at Agatha for Hitmonlee is 4 minutes and 40 seconds. If this fight was faster, Hitmonlee would clock in with much better times. However, surprisingly, the fight against Lance is worse. Gyarados isn't a good place to set up. I don't have a fighting type move anymore for Aerodactyl. I end up having to take things slow again on the second Dragonair and set up for the end of the fight. All 6 Meditates required. This way Hyper Beam can one-hit the Aerodactyl and the Dragonite. Hitmonlee takes an average of 4 minutes and 53 seconds to defeat Lance, with the max time being 7 minutes and 24 seconds, and the minimum time being 2 minutes and 43 seconds, which was this 6th playthrough's result. The champion also requires some luck. I need to get 4 turns of setup on the Sandslash to knock it out in 2 hits. With 4 turns, I can then one-hit the following 2 Pokemon and rest at Magneton. Here, Thunderbolt is a threat, and I lose this way in the first fight that I made it past the Sandslash. So I'm really banking on my ability to set up against his first team member. If that doesn't happen, Hitmonlee is going to lose. Even with 5 Meditates, Cloyster survives, uses Spike Cannon, thankfully, and Hitmonlee clocks in with a time of 1 hour, 2 minutes and 34 seconds. So here are the results. Not a single sub-hour finish. It's actually the first Pokemon that performed worse in its second playthrough than I did in my initial playthrough. In order to push its time as low as it needs to, it banks on so much luck in the final 3 fights. As an upside, it did get a 3 hour and 15 minute game time, which is the lowest game time I've ever achieved. Now if you look at the levels that I was finishing the game at, you can see that in my playthroughs, I'm slowly trying to get Hitmonlee at a higher and higher level by the end of the game. I wanted to add consistency however was possible, and I figured by adding 1 or 2 more levels, I might do this. By eliminating resets, I can push the amount of game time required up and the amount of real time required down. I felt that I had got so close to a sub-hour time with Hitmonlee that I wanted to do one more playthrough with it and make a few last-minute changes. To be fair, I also did another playthrough with Hitmonchan as well to see if I could improve its results too. For it, I didn't have any major changes that I wanted to make. Honestly, it's already squeezing through most of the battles at the minimum comfortable level. Cutting training would likely add resets and make its time worse. I tried to play better, and I got really good luck throughout the game. I defeat Erica with no resets, only 36 seconds behind my fastest time yet. The Sleep Powder coin toss that's Koga goes very well for me, and I emerge reset free as well. Blaine's obviously a gamble, but again, first attempt. I take on Sabrina next. Previously I was fighting her before Blaine, but it makes so much sense to fight her after Blaine. Hitmonchan gets the badge boost for special now, and it's enough to move first against all of her Pokemon. Another first attempt victory. So Hitmonbad is making the transformation to Hitmonchad. This trend continues against Giovanni and the final rival, and with that I'm now at my personal best with Hitmonchan. The results continue. Lorelei without resets, Bruno follows. However, Agatha is next. This fight was going really well until Arbok paralyzed Hitmonchan with Glare. Because of it, Gengar moves first and knocks Hitmonchan out with Psychic. That's the first reset at Agatha. I guess this is fitting. But Hitmonchan wants revenge, and it gets it in the very next fight. My strategy for Lance goes to plan. Knock out Gyarados, set up on Dragonair, heal, knock it out, mimic Ice Beam, and sweep. Or not? Aerodactyl gets a hit in, but Hitmonchan survives and knocks the prehistoric bat back in time with Ice Beam. And then Dragonite's a one-hit. Right now, I'm set to clock in with my best time yet with Hitmonchan, 1 reset, and I'm starting the champion fight before 1 hour and 12 minutes. I get great luck against Sandslash, fully set up, and steal Earthquake before I heal for the first time. I take time to make sure that I'm healthy, and then I knock Sandslash out. Alakazam's a one-hit. Against Executor, I go for the knockout, but it uses Hypnosis, puts me to sleep, and finishes Hitmonchan off. I try again, get risky on setup, and Sandslash knocks me out. Then it gets lucky while I sleep, and I faint for a third time. I make it past Executor in the next fight, but Magneton crits with Thunderbolt and knocks Hitmonchan out. At this point, I was not having a good time. Cloyster frustratingly finishes Hitmonchan off. Then Executor gets me with Barrage. And then in the next fight, I paralyze it with Body Slam. It misses Hypnosis and I knock it out. Magneton's a one-hit with Earthquake. Cloyster uses Clamp, but I have the health to tank it. And Flareon's last. Hitmonchan gets the job done and clocks in with a time of 1 hour, 20 minutes, and 26 seconds. That is a disappointing final finish for this punching fiend, and that's all because of the champion. But what about Hitmonlee? Perhaps I can do better with it in its final playthrough. The first 3 quarters of the game are pretty much exactly the same. No resets on Misty, Surge, Erica, Koga, Sabrina. Yeah, this continues all the way until Agatha. I arrive at her 4 levels higher than previously. This allows me to make a radical choice. I'm not going to teach Hitmonlee Rest for this fight. I want to rely only on Mimic to get me through it. I tested this, and it is possible, but it's significantly less consistent than the moveset that includes Rest. So I'm gambling. The reason I'm doing this is so that I can take High Jump Kick with me to the following 2 trainers, making them more consistent. One reason this strategy also goes faster is that Hitmonlee doesn't set up Meditate or use Rest. This dramatically lowers the number of turns in the Agatha fight. Unfortunately, Gengar got a big Mega Drain turn 1, so I only have 1 substitute left. I knock out all of her Pokemon up to the Arbok without losing my sub, but then it uses Glare, paralyzes me, and I have no way to heal, and it breaks my substitute. Gengar comes out and knocks Hitmonlee out. Okay, 1 reset. I really want to do this under an hour. Come on, Agatha, please cooperate. Hitmonlee mimics substitute, and then Gengar paralyzes it. Oh no, this is bad. I take out the Golbat, and when the first Gengar finally falls, Hitmonlee only has 11 hit points left and is paralyzed. Agatha does some fancy switching here with Arbok and Haunter, giving me some free hits. Nice. My substitute falls, and I hold my breath as I take out the Arbok. Gengar is last. It uses Dream Eater, I do 1/3 damage. It tries again, I'm paralyzed and can't move. It tries a 3rd time, I take it into red. Agatha heals with a Super Potion. I take the Gengar back into red health. It misses a 4th Dream Eater, and then Hitmonlee knocks it out. That fight was so lucky, but I'm so happy being able to move on to Lance. Here, I teach Rest over Seismic Toss because it's useless, and then I teach Strength over Mimic. I set up 3 times on Gyarados and knock it out with a single Strength because I'm a higher level now. The Dragonairs fall easily, and now I can just High Jump Kick the Aerodactyl. It's a 1-hit. I use Strength on Dragonite, it survives, uses Blizzard, and Hitmonlee faints. So I do actually need 5 turns of setup here. I get it on my next fight and knock the Dragonite out. The champion's all that's left. I set up 5 Meditates on Sandslash and then knock it out without healing. With High Jump Kick, I don't need to. Strength 1-hits Alakazam, Executor, and Magneton. High Jump Kick takes care of Cloyster, and Flareon goes down, and Hitmonlee clocks in with a time of 56 minutes and 40 seconds, with 2 resets at level 66 with an in-game time of 3 hours and 38 minutes. I am so happy with this performance, and I was able to finally just decide not to do any more playthroughs with these 2. I think 14 is enough. Here are the results. It's quite clear that Hitmonlee is the better Pokemon. That's an understatement. It's a much better Pokemon. Hitmonchan is really not that good. Anyways, it gets the faster real time, the faster game time finishes, and it finishes at a lower level. Hitmonchan does have some positives though. On average it gets less resets, but Hitmonlee did get the fewest resets in a single playthrough today. Granted, it did get very lucky against Agatha to achieve that. What I find most surprising in these playthroughs is how fragile Hitmonlee feels and how strong Hitmonchan actually ends up being. I had very low expectations for it, and it did exceed them. It's not a good Pokemon, but it exceeded my expectations, so yeah, it felt strong. Now it's tier list time, and before I rank Hitmonlee and Hitmonchan, I want to just say that mental health is really important. I've been taking care of mine by producing content ahead of schedule, so I have some flexibility with my time. That way I know that I can release content even if I get sick or I have a family emergency or something like that come up. It also gives me the flexibility in my schedule to play 14 runs for a versus video like this and not miss a release. So in the future, you'll actually notice that my tier list doesn't include Hitmonchan and Hitmonlee. The reason is that those videos were finished before this video was. So yeah, it's a little bit of time travel. Now, let's rank these Pokemon. Hitmonlee deserves 2nd place Only Clefable has outperformed it at this point. Hitmonchan is harder to place. I'll make use of some data to inform my decision-making process here. Hitmonchan's best performance comes in ahead of Raticate and Slowpoke's first performances. I got faster times with Charizard, and I wasn't using rare candies for those playthroughs. I also think that if I played Raticate 7 times, I think that it would outperform Hitmonchan. It's really good. The Rat's first playthrough was almost an hour faster than Hitmonchan's first playthrough after all. For those reasons, I think that Hitmonchan deserves a spot just behind Raticate and in front of Slowpoke. Like the video to help me out with the algorithm and to encourage me to make more videos like this. The next one's going to be a highly requested match, and it's going to be hot. So subscribe and ring the chime echo so you'll be notified when I release it. Also, leave a comment because I gotta read them all. If you want access to an exclusive Discord server and the occasional bonus content, consider supporting the creation of these videos on Patreon. The link is in the description. To everyone already supporting me, thank you so much. It means the world. And for all of you still watching, you're incredible. Now, it's bloopers time. Will Hitmonchan defeat Hitmonlee and complete Pokemon Yellow with a faster time? Already bloopers, this is bad. Will Hitmonchan defeat Hitmonlee, defeating Pokemon Yellow with a faster time? Will Hitmonchan defeat Hitmonlee, completing Pokemon Yellow with a faster time? Oh my gosh, I can't do this line. Which would be great if this was Generation 4. But in Generation 1, the type determines which stat the move uses. That line is so hard. The advantage of doing things this way is that I can face the bug catchers in the forest without having to return to Viridian Seal what am I saying? Viridian Seal, I just see like seal on the screen. The advantage of doing this is so that I can face the bug catchers in the forest without having to return to Viridian City. I decide to go for Body Slam because Hitmonlee, Hitmonchan. Hitmonchad. Pokemon Towers next. The rivals first, I use Body Slam. Furo mirrors me. Mirrors me. What the? Pokemon Tower is next. The rivals first, I use Body Slam. Furo mirrors me. Mirrors. I'm just gonna say Furo uses mirror move. I just edit my sentences when I can't say them. The problem is that the Doduo. That's hard actually. The problem is that the Doduo. Oh my gosh, the Doduo. That's like actually a stutter. I can't say it. The problem is the Doduo here. No, the Doduo. It's a poop bird. Oh gosh, my humor. This is like my regular humor. My girlfriend has to deal with this all the time. I'm so sorry. I use 1 Meditate, take half damage from the psych. I use 1 Meditate. Meditate. Who knows?